Hey there, hello and welcome. It is Madeline here, and happy Thanksgiving Eve, or whenever you're watching this. But I particularly wanted to talk about this topic in particular before, right as we enter the holiday season, which is also the onset, we're right about to enter cold, flu, and now COVID season, okay? And what I want to talk to you today about is the contagion myth, okay? The myth that illness is caused by human to human contact, or human to surface contact, or human to animal contact. In his recent book, Dr. Tom Cowan and colleague Sally Fallon Morell debunk this myth. So I've been having this conversation with friends and family and clients on a one-on-one basis. So I thought I would take the opportunity to talk about it and share it with you here today. So as I wrote about a couple of days ago, this book, right, The Contagion Myth by Dr. Tom Cowan and his colleague Sally Fallon, is arguably the most important book I've read in years, okay? This book, the concepts in this book have freed me, liberated me from the myth of contagion, as well as empowered me by teaching me what the real cause of illness and disease is. So I started exploring or researching germ versus terrain theory back in April or May for obvious reasons, right? When the COVID pandemic was revving up to its height. And that research led me to Dr. Tom Cowan and now his most recent book, The Contagion Myth, right? I can't show it to you enough because this book is mind-blowing, and Dr. Cowan writes it in a language that is easy for lay people to understand, right? So I highly recommend it, and I'll share the link to get it, for you to get it again. Okay? So in this book, you know, The Contagion Myth, its subtitle is Why Viruses, Including the Coronavirus, Are Not the Cause of Disease, right? So germ theory was born in the late 1800s by Dr. Hey Jeff, good to see you, by Dr. Louis Pasteur, and he founded the concept of germ theory based on bad milk that was making people sick, right? So he was wildly and worldly renowned as having to have discovered the cause of contagion, or discovered contagion, became famous, and then contagion was a thing. However, fun fact, Louis Pasteur on his deathbed said that he never proved contagion. And Dr. Cowan and other scientists who are studying new biology today are also saying that contagion has never been proven. So, and that's because they don't meet the criteria to prove causation, okay? So in the criteria to prove causation is Koch postulates, or Koch's postulates, I'm not sure how to say his name, but a scientist also in the late 1800s who determined, this is a sound, viable scientific means of proving causation, and this is widely accepted in the scientific community, these 4 steps for proving the cause of disease. However, contagion has not been proven according to these steps. So let me share them with you real quick, right? The 4 steps, right? Koch's postulates, for proving causation of disease or illness are, scientifically proven, are finding the microorganism in the organism that is suffering from disease, right? So finding a virus in the person that is sick, okay? That's step number 1. Step number 2 is isolating that virus in a pure fashion, right? So that would be taking it from a person, doing some kind of centrifuge process so you can isolate the virus and get it into a pure form so we know this is the virus that is making person A sick, okay? Step number 3 is putting that virus in a healthy organism, right? So taking a virus and putting it in a healthy person, and then step number 4 is that makes the person sick, okay? Let me see if there's another step number 4. Oh, yes, so then, right, so step number 3 is you take the virus, put it in a healthy person, and that person gets sick. And then step number 4 is we extrapolate the virus from the second sick person, make it pure, again, through whatever process that happens, and then compare it to the original virus, and they must be the same. This has never been proven. These steps have never been proven for cold, flu, viruses, for COVID, for the coronavirus, okay? And these are widely accepted steps for proving the causation of illness, okay, in the scientific community. So, however, as you can imagine, they may not be that easy to prove. And so another set of criteria were also established, which is Rivers criteria, which has more steps, but it's easier to prove. None of those steps have been proven for viruses, including the coronavirus either. So again, back to Louis Pasteur at the turn of the 19th century, this went viral in that day, and then it was decided that contagion was a thing, and then shortly thereafter, the flu pandemic of 1918 occurred and seemingly proved that contagion was a thing because all these people in clustered areas were getting sick. However, regarding the flu pandemic of 1918, when scientists of the day tried to prove contagion according to Koch's postulates, they were unable to, right? Some of the ways that they did this are quite interesting, right? So they took 100 healthy subjects, they took some sick people and tried to infect 100 healthy volunteers, okay? They took snot out of the sick person's nose and injected it into 100 healthy subjects. Not one of them got sick, okay? They also took infected individuals with the flu, had them stand this close to healthy people and the sick person coughed into the healthy person's mouth, and nobody got sick, or maybe one person got sick out of the 100, which is statistically insignificant. Okay, so, and that's because viruses are not external to us, right? They are not alive. They can't live outside of us. So if I cough onto a surface, a virus cannot attach to that surface and live and then reinfect another person, okay? This is what we are learning now. This is what we know now to be true, that viruses are not external factors that we catch and make sick. They are created within our physiology as responses to threats, okay? And the symptoms that they cause are our body's way of showing us that something is amiss and we need to take care of it. So if contagion isn't a thing, right, which is what Dr. Cowan et al. Have proven and write about in their book, then how do you get sick, right? So, and here's the really good stuff, right? How do you get sick? There are 4 ways that we get sick. Number 1, injury, right? So you have an injury, and then that results in an illness, okay? Number 2, starvation. Starvation meaning you're not getting the appropriate nutrients, okay? So you're not eating healthy whole foods that are giving you the nutrients that our body needs in order to be healthy and strong, and water, right? So that also includes getting enough hydration of good quality water, okay? Number 3, and here is number 3 and 4 are actually the crux of all of these. Well, actually they all are. The last 3 are, right? Now, so number 3 is poison or toxin. So I'm not drinking poison or eating poison, Madeline. Sure you are, right? So if you're eating processed food, eating crap, you're poisoning your body. If you're taking medication, you're poisoning your body. If you're breathing polluted air, you're poisoning your body. If you are, I'm looking for my phone and I'm on it. So if you are on your cell phone or carry your cell phone around with you everywhere, as I do, as most people do, you are poisoning your body with the radiation that is being emitted from the signal that it emits and receives in order to provide you with all that information and fun at your fingertips, right? So poison, toxins are making us sick. And number 4, right, which is my jam, is negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, resentment, fear. Let me go back to fear, right? Since March, April, fear in this country and in the world has been in high alert. That sends us into fight or flight response. That sends our physiology into a negative response. It's a great response if there's actually an imminent threat. But watching the news every day and being fearful of catching an illness that now we know you can't catch and has a survival rate of less than the flu, right? 99.96% of people who contract coronavirus and or the flu are going to live, right? Are going to recover and they're going to live. But we've been, in 2020, we've been put on high alert and have been taught to fear these flus, these colds, COVID now, right? So that's my jam, right? Those negative emotions. If you're living in negative emotions, and now a lot of us are, right? Even if you're not afraid of COVID, you might be afraid of what the government is doing. If you're not afraid of what the government is doing to protect you, you might be afraid of catching COVID or the flu. Actually, I think the flu is just not going to get any love this flu season, which is coming very soon. So I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am now, right? So, but back to negative emotions, right? So I think negative emotions and the toxicity, right, is the primary ways that we as a society get sick, right? The toxicity in the air, in our food, in our medications, alcohol, cigarettes, what have you, poisoning you, making you sick, and negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear in 2020, fear should be 2020's word, is also making you sick. And back to those viruses, right? If we're not catching viruses, what are they, right? So Dr. Cowan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman actually say that they're exosomes. They're not viruses, they're exosomes, but I don't want to get into semantics. But they are what happens. There are physiology's response to the threat, right? Either the poison, the toxin, that includes lack of sleep, negative emotions, and the response in your physiology saying, hey, this isn't cool, we're not right, we need to get straight. And they create symptoms, coughing, sneezing, fever, all your body's responses to you need to get well, right? You need to pay attention. We don't feel good. You need to get well. And Dr. Andrew Kaufman says, I'm going to look over here because I'm looking at my other monitor, says that viruses are exosomes. I don't want to get caught up in the semantics, but essentially they are excretion of toxic cells, and exosomes or viruses, potato, are not transmittable. They're not transmittable. They are self-created. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. People are looking at exosomes, calling them viruses. The word virus comes from the ancient Latin word, which means noxious substance or poison. Here we are, number 3 and 4 of the 4 causes of disease, poison and negative emotions. And this live is already longer than I wanted it to be. Please forgive me, but I love this stuff. And I hope that this is serving you. So exosomes are a response to illness. Viruses are a response to illness in our physiology. It's brilliant. Our physiology is so brilliant. And not the cause of illness. Again, what are the causes of illness? Injury, starvation, poison, right? External poisons and internal poisons of negative emotions, right? That's why it is critical to handle all of these things. Particularly, I help people with clearing up, healing your negative emotions, which is now is a good time to get in on my Primordial Power Weekend, right? Because we're going to clear all that shit out. We're going to clear a lifetime. We're going to clear 2020's negative emotions, right? Or essentially a lifetime of your negative emotions in one afternoon, right? Actually, clearing out the negative emotions takes minutes, but we're going to hang out together for a couple of afternoons so I can lead you up to it and then take you through the process of clearing out the toxicity that you've accumulated over a lifetime, or at a minimum over 2020, of negative emotions, fear at a minimum. And I'm going to put the link to opting in to that weekend event in the comments below to this live, and the discount codes, right? Because through Black Friday is the best deal that you're going to get on hanging out with me next weekend, okay? But anyway, key statement, exosomes, right? Viruses facilitate the healing by devouring the toxic medicine, okay? So let me recap for you. And I know you might have lots of questions, and then I may do follow-ups to this live, like, well, how do you explain the pandemic, okay? So, and we have answers to that, right? Dr. Cowan covers it in depth in his book, which I highly recommend you get. We'll also put the link to that in the comments below as well, right? So, Louis Pasteur posited germ theory in the late 1800s. It caught on like wildfire. Everyone accepted it as fact. And then we have germ theory, okay? Then the flu pandemic happened in 1918. People were going crazy like they are today with COVID, with the mask wearing and the staying away from each other and the quarantines and the isolation and all that stuff. And it was ineffective, right? Because the causation of illness, of contagion, has never been proven. Let me say that again. The causation of contagion, right? Proving contagion has never been proven, okay? So Dr. Cowan, Dr. Kaufman, others like them have, there are studies that say they've proven it, but when you read that literature, which Dr. Cowan has done and has cited the literature in his book, they did not prove Koch's postulates, right? They did not prove the causation of illness when it comes to cold, flu, and now COVID, okay? So, and what are the four causes of disease, right? Well, before I get there, let me back up. Viruses are our body's way of fighting off threats, right? Which are the four causes of disease, right? Which are injury, starvation, not getting the proper nutrients is what we mean by starvation, not necessarily going without food, right? But being fed, and, right, you could be obese and be starving for nutrients, right? Poisons or toxins like you get in crappy food, that you get in the air, and you get from medications, just as a few examples. And negative emotions, right? Particularly fear. I want to highlight anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, resentment, but I want to highlight fear because that's my jam. And anxiety and fear have been rampant in 2020 in order to perpetuate this pandemic, essentially. And again, one or many of these will result in viruses in our physiology. Again, we did not catch viruses. Our physiology created the viruses to actually fight off the threat of one of these four causes of disease. So you might have questions. You might have more questions, which I can address in another live if there's interest, right? Like, how do you explain the current pandemic? We have answers for that, right? Dr. Cowan covers them in their book, which are fascinating. How do you explain other seemingly infectious diseases? Dr. Cowan explains all that as well. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll be happy to do another live because I love this stuff. And in the meantime, again, negative emotions, my jam. You want to clear up those negative emotions, fear, anger, hurt, guilt. They will make you sick if you have suffered from them to any degree, which I have in the past, and have suffered as well, right? My anxiety has heightened, right? Or I have had anxiety heightened in 2020. You know that they can make you physically ill and emotionally ill, which have a negative response on your physiology. So now would be a good time for you to opt in to my Primordial Power Weekend. We're going to have a lot of fun I think it's next weekend already, where we're going to clear out those negative emotions, right? Like that, and which has an immediate impact at a cellular level. So your body will start to heal immediately. Okay, I'm going to put the link to that again in the comments below. And through Black Friday is the best deal you're going to get on this weekend, okay? Benoit, good to see you again, my love. Oh, it's been a long time. Well, not so really. I just talked to you yesterday. But good to see you again. So, well, Benoit, go back and watch this from the beginning if you're just watching. And everyone, if you're just jumping in, go back into the beginning and watch this. Let me know what questions you have. I know I have answers, and I'll be happy to continue this fun conversation with you at another time. In the meanwhile, right? So happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays whenever you're watching this. Happy day if you're watching this months from now, because this information isn't changing. So I hope this serves you. Let me know what questions you have. Go to the comments and opt into my Primordial Power Weekend so we can hang out next weekend and get healthy and badass. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next live. And until then, I will see you in the gap. Much love to you. Namaste. Mwah.